Good evening, Dungeon Masters, I'm Baron Durop. 5th edition D&D is designed to be an epic fantasy adventure game, but nothing about the treasure and magic items in the Dungeon Master's Guide supports this kind of narrative. The gold and gemstones are as plentiful as they are useless, and the magic items, compared to earlier editions of the game, are so weak it almost makes one wonder why treasure was included as a reward system to start with. While players might need coinage early in the game to upgrade basic equipment and snag a suit of plate mail, in the late game, gold becomes such a chore to keep up with that it's either entirely ignored by the players or relegated to the construction of strongholds. By the time players get to 7th level in 5th edition, access to gold basically becomes meaningless. Once players are hot on the trail of an epic quest or have locked away swaths of coinage deep in some vault, any more stacks of gold just adds to a candy-coated topping on an already too sweet cake. Players will go through the motions of dividing up some 17,000 gold in the most fair way possible, but the treasure truly becomes exciting when they start jotting down the magic items they find in the Hoard as well. So that begs the question, why even worry about the gold at all when what the players truly want is the power-expanding magical gear? If gold isn't adding value, why add it to the treasure hoard to start with? If the meaningless of gold wasn't enough, random treasure tables since 0th edition have included entries for loot like gemstones, statues, paintings, sculptures, knickknacks, and jewelry. And in older editions of the game where an exhumed treasure's gold value counted as XP earned, this was fine. But in modern iterations of the game, the DMG is silent about what to do with all this jewelry and artwork other than offload it for a pointless return rate with some Silk Road style merchant. Moreover, what are players supposed to do with these items when the Necro Dragon cult they've been tracking is raising the bones of Tiamat and will finish their ritual in just 3 days? In an epic style quest like this, players have little time to trifle with the likes of an ivory statue valued at 200 gold pieces that they pulled off the corpse of some orc chieftain's son. Unless the items themselves are directly related to the adventure, these non-magical baubles are even more useless than all the gold laying about. I'd like to take a quick moment to thank this video's sponsor, Enclave, live now on Kickstarter. Enclave is a rules-medium, diceless RPG that encourages players to really bring out their inner thespian. If you're a player or dungeon master who has enjoyed giving and receiving inspiration for great roleplay, then this game will be right up your alley. The game's storytelling mechanics include something called pitching, which I really love and is more of a codified version of leading the DM. If the players think something should be in the game fiction, can justify why it should logically be there, and present it with good storytelling, the conduit, Enclave's name for a GM, is likely obliged to confirm it in the story. The character classes available to choose from are also totally fresh takes on the typical RPG character roles, like the utility-heavy librarian and the combat magic-focused Thunderbird. Also, the conduit section offers a lot of storytelling advice that's not just great for Enclave itself, but general adventure design that gets the players right into the action. If you'd like to back the Kickstarter to get your own copy of Enclave, check out the link in the description below. Thanks Enclave for sponsoring this video. Do you know what 9-year-old me thought was the coolest magic item when I first got my hands on the 2nd edition AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide? The +5 Holy Avenger. This weapon in the hands of a paladin was incredible. +5 to attacks and damage, and an additional +10 damage against chaotic evil enemies. It disrupted magic and glowed like a radiant torch in a radius of 5 feet for every 4 character levels. And even if it was picked up by someone who wasn't a paladin, it was still a +2 longsword, nothing to sneeze at. But most importantly, considering a typical ancient red dragon back then only had 42 hit points, it meant a paladin with this sword could slay that red dragon in just 2 hits. Compare this with the current iteration of the weapon and its relationship to the same dragon. The +5 has been nerfed to a +3, the magic disrupting ability has been entirely removed, and the bonus damage now only applies to undead. The only thing that remains nominally unchanged is the torchlight ability.
Torchlight? Lottie frickin' da!
How incredible would it have been to have a +5 Holy Avenger that, if scaled properly to 5e's power level, caused a bonus 10d10 damage against evil creatures and granted magical resistance against their spellcasting. Holy Smite and Aura of Protection have nothing on this. It was specifically this kind of magic item granted player character power level at high level play in earlier editions that made fighting an entire posse of dragons not just doable, but central to the high-level epic power gaming experience of a Dragonlance campaign. Characters had to go on an epic quest to find the powerful magic items to save the world, because without them, the characters were doomed. Player characters had to become so decorated with magic items that their power output was just as much about the trophies and gear they gained along the way as it was about the abilities they gained when they leveled up. In 5th edition, however, magic items are so weak they might as well have been an afterthought. So how do we fix this treasure hoard conundrum? Firstly, we should only reward gold at lower levels when staying at taverns and buying new equipment is still relevant, and only before the player characters have any real ability to take on epic scale adventures. By level 7, unless the players expect to use that gold to build a stronghold and move into domain level play, like in older editions, gold should stop showing up in treasure hoards altogether. Secondly, any artwork, baubles, tchotchke, or jewelry rewarded as part of a hoard should be related to a quest hook players picked up while on their adventure. Finding a missing wedding band for a widowed villager back in town is entirely acceptable, but finding a gold ring that only has monetary value and requires negotiating needlessly with merchants degrades the impact of both the treasure hoard and the momentum of the epic quest. Thirdly, magic items within the treasure hoards should be far more plentiful and far more interesting than a single bonus to a particular ability. These magic items should diversify the options the characters have to solve future problems, and extra emphasis should be placed on rewarding consumables and single-use items where players can flex their creativity without the dungeon master worrying they've given the characters a game-breaking magic item. Using some bauble to summon a fire elemental to defeat a family of owlbears is a hilarious solution to a problem, but that solution should be single-use and consumed in the process. Moreover, magic items that aren't consumable, like swords, armor, and spellcasting focuses, should have a wide array of strange bonuses that increase character abilities and options, but should be subtle enough that it takes an entire outfit of that kind of gear before players can start punching 5 levels above their weight class. Further, legendary items like that +5 Holy Avenger should only be awarded near the end of an epic quest, when the party is about to take on a terrible Elithalich riding his ancient black dragon while commanding a regiment of vampire spawn. If a party becomes so powerful thanks to the gear they earned along the way, such that an encounter like this is actually manageable, victory feels truly earned and deserved, like the magic items they acquired through their adventures were instrumental to their success. If these solutions sound great to you, I've created a remixed treasure hoard generator at a link in the description below that works not just for 5th edition, but any edition of D&D as well as its various retro clones and spin-offs. With just a handful of dice rolls, you'll have an interesting treasure hoard in just a handful of minutes. Otherwise, if you'd like to help me make more content like this in the future, please consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching, Dungeon Masters, and until next time, good night.